right, I'm excited for this topic. Today, I'm talking to you about the top 5 reasons that you must know your numbers in your coaching or therapy business. Any business, to be honest, because I know there's a few people who tune into this podcast who are not necessarily coaches or practitioners or therapists, but still get a lot of value. And this will definitely apply to you as well. And so, to get started, I have a confession to make. I feel like I confess a lot on this podcast, to be honest. It's a bit like, yeah, diary of a coach. Uh, Anywho, I have a bit of a confession. Now, you may know, because I talk about this more and more now, but I have a um, long history in banking and finance, accounting, probably close to 20 years. I spent working as an assistant accountant, working in banks, being a money coach. And so numbers has been a big part of my life for a long time, big part of my career, shall we say. And the thing that I have to confess is that when I first started my business, I didn't apply what I knew about numbers to my business. I kind of felt like I was leaving that old career behind and that I was just moving into coach land where I was going to help people and that would be great. And of course, I did move into being a coach and was helping people. But for the first couple of years, my business didn't go all that well because I wasn't looking at the numbers in my business and I was trying to ignore the fact that I had a business and that I was just, a bit of a Cape Crusader out to save the world. And so once I got enough pain about that, because, and I can tell you where this come from, because the other thing about when I started my business, one of my big motivators for starting my business was to help people, but I could have helped people in a job. The motivator for having my own business was really so that no one could tell me what to do, when to do it, how to do it, anything else. It was a bit rebellious. I was rebelling against the system. And so I was rejecting everything from that system. And look, that's sometimes stuff that you have to do before you can completely, I guess, integrate all of your learnings and skills. Okay. Sometimes you need to accept, sometimes you need to reject, and then you ultimately integrate it into your next level of what you do. And so I rejected all the business and accounting number stuff that I had years of experience in and tried to cowboy my business. Well, like I said, that didn't go so well. And so I got to a point where I thought, well, if I really want this to work, clearly I need to be business focused and I need to focus on my numbers. And when I did that, and I had really good accounting systems in process, and when I set targets and worked out what my expenses were, and I registered for GST and I set up a company and I made sure that I was paying myself a minimum amount that I thought was acceptable, like for me to be working in my business, that clearly, paid for my bills and I could live on essentially, and made sure I had that minimum wage set up and that I also, was paying tax, putting aside tax, pay as you go tax, super. And then, really I set up as well. So I set myself up as an employee in my business. And I also set up multiple bank accounts so that I didn't just have one lump sum of money sitting there that I thought was free to me for me to spend. So I set up, 3 bank accounts essentially. One, which is my normal, receiving money and bills get paid out of, and then another one where I'd put aside my BAS payments and super payments, and then another one for profits. And that is where things really changed when I got serious about my numbers and started treating my business like a business. And, I was doing consistent 6 figures from, well, it started a bit before then, but then consistently on from there because I always knew where I was at. I always knew where I needed to be at and where my business needed to be performing. And to do that, I did have to reintegrate my relationship with numbers and appreciate the entirety of numbers and what numbers means, because when it came to business and accounting, I'd had this kind of, oh, that's boring, systems stuff. However, the other side of numbers is that I've always loved numerology and the magic of numbers. And I'm always seeing angel numbers, repeating numbers and my lucky numbers. And so I had this one side, I'm going, oh, numbers are magical and I love numbers. But then on the other side, I was going, no, I'm not looking at the numbers in my business, which just didn't make sense. So I managed to integrate that at a new level where I could find joy in numbers, that I knew that numbers are very magical, and they are. And I've done study into numerology, and if you know much about numerology, different numbers have different energies and frequencies and vibrations and things like that. So there is a lot of power in numbers, and we can harness that power and use it in our business in a very, very effective way. And when you think about it like that, right, you can actually see that business, because business is a lot about numbers, because the ultimate purpose of a business is to make a profit. And you can say it's about anything else in the world that you like, but if you have a business, your business needs to be profitable. Otherwise, you could go out and help people as a not-for-profit, not for profit, as a not-for-profit, or you could help people as a hobby. You could help people for free if you wanted to. But if you have a business, it's for the purpose of making money. Money's numbers, right? There's all kinds of numbers, and how do we make that business profitable? And so when you develop this love for numbers as a whole and really appreciate the magical energy of numbers, then you can make working with numbers and knowing the numbers in your business a lot of fun and very purposeful and exciting. And you can really get into it, right? And that's what I'm really passionate about, is having people love their numbers, right? Like shifting whatever limited thinking you've got about numbers, especially in your business or in your bank account, and just seeing them as numbers and seeing them as magical numbers, just like you could for numerology or lucky numbers or anything else, right? Like that, they're numbers. And so that's the first step, right? Is changing your relationship with numbers. But I'm going to be talking to you now, and I'm going to be looking at 5 key reasons, my 5 top reasons why you must know your numbers in your business. And we'll go deeper on that. So, the number one reason that you must know your numbers in your business and get to love your numbers is because you want to have a business that supports your life, okay, that gives you quality of life. And you need to decide how much you want to be paid for the work that you do in your business. Now, what's very interesting that I notice is that often, not always, because I know people who are making way more money in their business than what they could get in a job, but people who are often starting and struggling to get that money going, what I've noticed is that how much people say they're willing to accept to be paid in their business for working what's often longer and, you know, more intense time is much less than what they would expect someone to pay them in a job, right? And this just does not make sense. Okay. You need to decide for the level of work that you do in your business and the value that you provide and how you help people, right? And everything that your business relies on from you. If you were to work for somebody else doing that same thing, how much would you expect to get paid? Right? How much would you expect to get paid for that? For the amount of effort and passion and commitment that you have for your business and what you do? What would you just go and do that for somebody else on a bit of a hit and miss around whether they're going to pay you or not? No, You wouldn't, right? And so this is why it's really important that you need to decide how much you want to be paid for the work that you do in your business, because if you don't nail this down from the start, and it can increase over time, there's no problems about that. But at least from the start, where are you aiming for to get paid? Because if you don't, it's one of the quickest ways to get burnt out, right? When you're putting in a lot of effort and you're not getting anything back, you will get burnt out, right? Like, and I don't want that for you. So decide really quickly how much, from the amount of effort and work that you put in, how much would you expect someone else to pay you, right? And from there, you might decide more or less. It's up to you, but that's a good start. Okay, you're gonna make sure that your business is going to pay you what you're worth. Okay, so that's number one. Now, the second reason that you must know your numbers is because, like I was saying before, business is all about numbers. Okay, it's all about numbers. The highest intention of business is to be profitable. If your intention for your business is not to be profitable, you're not operating a business. You've got a hobby, or maybe you set up a not for profit. That's perfectly okay if that's what you want. But we have to know that business is about numbers, and ideally, those numbers are going to add up to be profitable. And if you don't want to see yourself as a business person, or if you just want to see yourself as a coach or a therapist, then what you need is a job. You need to be working for someone else who wants to take care of the numbers. Okay, so if you want to have a business where you have the freedom and flexibility to set that business up how you want it, you have to decide that you're good at numbers and really take on that being the CEO. And I did a masterclass about that. You can find the replay to that in the link on my bio on my socials, from coach to CEO. Got loads of great feedback about that. So you can still get access to that replay. In fact, I'll make sure that the link's in the show notes for this episode as well. But you've got to decide you're a CEO, right? That's a big difference than having a job. Okay, number three reason why you need to decide to be good at numbers in your business is that you need to know that your numbers actually add up. The money that your business makes, you've always got to remember the money that your business makes does not go straight into your pocket. So if you've got a program that you're selling for 2 grand or 2.5 grand or 10 grand, whatever it is, that money is never just going straight into your pocket, right? Your business is gonna need to pay expenses. There's all of the different subscriptions, printing, room hire, insurances, associations, coaching, whatever else it is, you've got all these expenses, right? So you need to know your expenses. You also need to know that your numbers add up from the perspective of, if you're selling a coaching program and that's like a 6 session program, you've got to know how many hours am I working in a week, in a day, in a week, in a month. And then how long does it take me to work with someone or take them through my program, or how much time do my programs require? And then make sure that those numbers add up, right? That they add up, that you can actually deliver enough of what you're selling in the time you have available to make the money that you want to make. Now, I shared a full calculation formula for this in the Coaching Circle Insiders. That's the subscription group where I go live every Friday morning. And I talk all the things about business and coaching and mindset and marketing and sales and communication, all those kinds of stuff. And I did a full training about really being able to work out those numbers. It's hugely important. So you have to know that your numbers add up, right? Hugely important. Okay, number four. Number four reason that you need your numbers to add up. And that is that you can only scale your business if you know your numbers and know what part of your business to focus on that will give you more time and money freedom. So, you might have a model that, makes X amount of money in your business with the time you have available. How do you scale that if you don't know your numbers? Like, where do you know where you've got to put in extra time or energy, or what it is you need to change in your business so that it can be more profitable? that you can have more time available for yourself because, coaching is pretty full on. And if you have a model that requires you to be coaching, say, 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, that's a lot of coaching, right? And that's when you might start going, okay, I've got myself to capacity coaching. I'm making some money, but I'm feeling a bit, stretched out. I want to start changing my model so that I reduce the amount of hours while I'm still delivering the same amount of value. Maybe I move into a group program. Maybe I've got some more online programs, those kinds of things where I can leverage my time and energy while increasing the money that I receive for the value that I'm giving out. And for that, you need to know the numbers. Okay. And it's the same as if you want to sell more things, you have to know your numbers around marketing. How many times do I need to post to where? Like how do I generate leads and how many leads do I need to generate for them to turn into sales? These are all numbers that you need to know so that you know where you need to put in extra time and energy that will result in you getting greater rewards. Okay, so scaling your business only happens when you know your numbers, right? You can't scale what you don't know. So you need to know your numbers. Number five, number five, and this is one of my favorites, I think. They're all my favorites. I've got this refound love of numbers, as you've heard me talk about all this episode. But money, number five, money loves structure and a plan. Okay, so if you don't have a plan for what you do with your money, it's unlikely just to fall in your lap, right? It's unlikely just to fall in your lap because it's unlikely you're going to put in adequate energy and time and focus to bring that money in, right? And just think about that, right? Remember a time when there was something that you just decided you really wanted to do, right? And I can give you an example. I remember when I first decided I wanted to learn NLP, and at that time I was a single mom. I was working part time. I was relying heavily on like child maintenance and family tax benefits and all those kinds of things. I didn't have a lot of available cash. I had a mortgage, and however, I wanted to learn NLP. And over a 12 months period, actually, I spent a good, oh, it would have been close to probably 30 or 40 grand on courses and travel and accommodation and resources for my business, right? And I didn't just have money laying around, but do you think that I found it when I decided that was what I was going to do? You bet I did. Right? So money loves a plan. You've got to know what you're going to do with money. You got to know what you're going to do with money. And you know, you have to have structure for your money. You have to have structure and systems that look after your money so that you know where it is at any time and you're not going to overextend. You're not going to overload yourself with expenses that don't add up to the money that's available. Right? And so money is a lot like electricity in this way, right? Electricity needs to have adequate wires and circuits to handle the load, right? To handle the amount of electricity that's moving through it. Because, we know if you've just got electricity just running willy nilly through your house, well, who knows what might happen, right? Things might blow up, you might get a shock, anything, right? You've got to have appropriate wires and circuits to handle that energy and to direct it where it's going to go. Right. And the other thing about electricity as well is that it's only drawn in response to the demand for it. Okay. So if you've got nothing going on in your house, it's not like there's all this electricity like just banking up, busting to go somewhere. Right. It's only going to be drawn to you when you're turning things on and there's a demand for it. Money's the same. Right? Money's the same. It needs to have a plan. It needs to be drawn in for a purpose. If you haven't got any purpose for it, if you're not like drawing, drawing it to you for a particular plan through a, suitable structure, then it's unlikely to come to you. Right? So money loves structure and a plan. Get very clear about what you want to use your money for and have a clear structure so that it can flow to you in a you know, well, what I was going to say, curated's not the word, but like a well organized and structure that you're in control of it. Right? That's really important. You need to be in control of it and take control of it, which means knowing what money's in your account, what's coming in, what's going out, knowing all those wonderful numbers in your business and falling in love with it and treating it well, right? Having respect for it, just like we do electricity. So that's my 5 top reasons about why you must know your numbers in your coaching or therapy business. I would love to know which one of those 5 has stood out to you the most. Which one's given you the biggest shift about numbers in your business? And, I think that when we think about numbers, and as in numerology or any other way that you like numbers, maybe you like measuring things. That's all numbers. Like, I love a good tape measure. I've got my own little ladies tape measure that's in my inside toolbox. Paul's got like the big tradie ones. My partner's got the big tradie ones out in his shed. I've got my little lady pink measuring tape inside. And I love measuring things. It's all numbers, right? It's all numbers. Business has numbers. There's lots of magical ways that we have numbers in our life. Your birthday's numbers. Everything's numbers. And when you think about it in that way in your business, know that those numbers in your business are magic that are just waiting to happen with your instruction. Go and love your numbers.